What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mack here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed, lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I got a wonderful repeat guest, the legend himself, Big Al Morris from Fox Pro. He is here. He's going to be talking to us all about Elk Calling. And if you didn't know this about Big Al, he's a 4-time world champion coyote caller, and at the same time is the only adult to ever hold 2 world records for calling animals at the same time, and that is a coyote calling champion, and he was the 2009 world elk calling champion. And so, Big Al, thanks for being here, brother. I really appreciate it.
Johnny Mack, it's so good to be back on the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Everybody calls me, dude, I love that podcast. And they hooked up with you, because they knew I was on it. So.
Oh, man. Well, I'm so honored that hopefully it's making an impact in people's lives. That's the idea, right? Transformation through primal adventure.
If we can just take maybe 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes of our time and change somebody's life, it was a good life led.
Heck yeah. All about that legacy we get to create and leave for other people, and you and the legacy that you've created for yourself has impacted me, because when I got into hunting, it was nothing but Big Al, Fox Pro. I want to know more and more and more. I loved watching your show, and so here we are. So we're gonna be talking about elk calling, and you just came off of the World Elk Calling Championships.
Yeah, it was held in Park City, Utah on the 22nd and 23rd of July. The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation had it in conjunction with one of those, I'm going to get it wrong and somebody's going to be mad at me. It was one of those bow hunting, bow shoots.
I can't
even think of the name of that.
What is it? The Total Archery Challenge or something like that?
Total Archery Challenge. That's it. I won't pay that much money to shoot a bow. I've got 4 3D targets out here in the yard. I can shoot to 120 yards in the yard. They want to, most of it you got to pay for the lift to get up the mountain, and then you lose a bunch of arrows. Why would you do that? I would rather keep my arrows, shoot my bow, kill elk. I've killed 28 bulls with a bow. I don't know. I think the way I do it's pretty solid. I don't think I need to go lose arrows on a backcountry course and I'm getting old too. I turned 55 on Saturday. Saturday's my birthday, the 13th.
Happy birthday, big stud.
Yeah. No, I'm old. Johnny, I'm getting old. So
well, never too old to
call. A lot of guys don't know the backstory. And I don't even know if you know the full backstory on me and how I started using one of these. My dad read in 1983. Were you even born then, Johnny?
I was born 84.
Yeah, see, that dates me right there. The host of this podcast wasn't born when I learned how to use one of these. That's crazy to me. My dad read an article in Outdoor Life about a guy that take a turkey diaphragm and started calling elk with it. And that was Mr. Wayne Carlton. There's a lot of debate that there were some other guys that started it before Wayne, but I was into that. The guy that taught me was Wayne Carlton. Wayne Carlton, as far as I'm concerned, is the pioneer of taking turkey diaphragms and calling elk. And, the turkey does that. And that's when Wayne said he sounds like an elk. And that's what, Wayne called a spike in Colorado with a turkey diaphragm. And that the next year he killed a bull with it. And then he wrote that article in 1983 with Rich LaRocco. He started it in 1980, 81. He started doing it. In 83, he made a business out of it. Rich LaRocco wrote that article. And my dad read that article and he sat right up in his lazy boy and he goes, bull crap. And my mom goes, Charlie, your son's in the room. And he goes, this guy says he can call elk within feet. And my dad used to take a black plastic tube and blow in it like a whistle. And he'd get elk to bugle back. But he said every time he'd move in, the elk would move away from him. And then this guy's saying in the article, the elk moved to him. And the more he read the article, the madder he got. By the end of the article, my dad was mad. And he said, honey, how far away is Montrose, Colorado? And my mom said, Chuck, we live in Utah. Colorado's one state away. And for heaven's sakes, call this guy because you're acting like a blooming idiot. So my dad walks over to the phone. We had just changed a rotary dial phone to a punch phone. And my dad's over there, 970-248-4497. And I run to the other phone, which was still a rotary phone in the bedroom. And my dad picks up the phone and goes, here's this. Hello, this is Wayne Carlton. My dad says, Wayne Carlton, you're full of shit. He goes, Chuck Morris from Springville, Utah. You sound like a no BS kind of guy. He said, this is the best elk calling system that's ever been made. I promise you it's good. And Wayne and him talked for a minute and he goes, I'll tell you what, Chuck Morris, you post-date your check 30 days. If you don't like what I send you, box it up, ship it back. I'll never cash your check. Well, how can I go wrong? 3 days later, UPS pulled in our driveway. We had a brown one, a red one, and a blue diaphragm, a piece of hose, much like this, and a cassette tape. And I had the boom box. In 1983, I had the 2-speaker boom box with the cassette player in the middle. I put it in there. Welcome to Calling with Elk with Wayne Carlton. And my dad put the diaphragm in his mouth like it said horseshoe out, and he hawked it about 6 feet onto the ground. Picked it up, washed it off. 2 hours later, my dad had a ring of spit and sweat that would choke a goat, and he was mad. He had not made a sound. And he looks at me and he goes, what are you doing? And I said, and I started squawking on it, but I had to do it reverse. And I'll tell you, he walks over to the phone after 2 hours, 970-248-4497, whatever it was. Hello, this is Wayne Carlton. He said, Wayne Carlton, now I know you're full of crap. And he goes, Chuck Morris from Springville, Utah. What's wrong? He said, these things don't make noise, Wayne. He said, I promise you they make noise, Chuck. What are you doing? He said, you said we. Who's we? Well, my 16-year-old kid's trying to. He said, what's his name? He goes, Al. He goes, put him on the phone. Maybe I can help him. And he said, Al, what are you doing? I said, Wayne, I turn it around backwards and suck in. That's the first sound I ever made on a diaphragm. And Wayne Carlton goes, don't do that. I'll be calling 911 from Montrose, Colorado, Springville, Utah to have somebody rotary that dang thing out of your throat. To turn it around and blow so you don't eat it. And I turned around and he said, touch your tongue to your forehead. And I went, and he goes, all right. And in 5 minutes, I was doing cow calls. And in 5 minutes, I did a bugle. My dad walks into the bedroom. What are you doing? I don't know. Wayne had the mules loaded. It was September 13th, 1983. His mules were in the trailer and he heard the phone ring. If Wayne Carlton had not answered that phone call and spent that 5 minutes with me that changed my life forever, I would not be talking to you, Johnny Mac. I know I wouldn't.
Crazy.
So that 5 minutes, I started calling. And I'll never forget that first conversation. He says, you know how a pirate goes, "Arr, matey." And he goes, "Say it." And I go, "Arr, matey." And he says, "Now do it through the diaphragm." And he said, "That's how you start your bugle." And he said, "Do it and then end it that way." That's always been the best part of my bugle. It's the first thing I learned. Arr. So anyway, you're getting that right here on the Soulful Hunter podcast. I've never let that out before. Just do a little arr matey into your calls and you'll be making the best bugles you can.
That is so awesome.
So
my school mascot that I teach at is the Pirates, and so I'm going to be bringing this. And I just brought in archery into the school's program at my school, so I'm going to be telling them about, hey, if you want to start calling elk, just arr,
arr, through the diaphragm. So that's how I started, and the rest has been history. I started calling bulls. I went to Utah State University, tried to play a little football, tried to go to school. I had a psychology teacher. It was opening day of deer season. I'm staring out the window, and the psychology teacher goes, and we've lost Mr. Morris again. He's staring out the window. He's not paying attention to me. Everybody look at Mr. Morris, and we're going to embarrass him. And he starts walking towards me. I did not hear the professor talking to me. And he gets right over there, and he sticks his face right next to me and goes, "What do you see?" And scared the crap out of me. Everybody starts laughing, and I go, "Well, I see about 10 orange shirts up there on the mountain hunting deer." And he goes, "It was the best advice a teacher ever gave me was, you need to go there. Go be there because you're not here. You're not listening to me. You're wasting your money with me." But he said, "Go put yourself on that mountain. That's where you want to be. So go be there." And it was the best advice I ever got. And, so my second year of college, my buddy Rick Woodard calls and says, "You're coming to call for us, right?" I go, "I got classes. I got all this." He says, "I'll pay you $500. Just show up." And I started getting paid. I left college to go get paid to call elk in for people. And that changed my life. A guy pays me, it's the same thing coyote hunting. I got paid when I was 12 years old. The first coyote I killed, I skinned and got $35 for. Should have never happened. And then I decided hunting coyotes was cool. So,
dude, I can only imagine if we were sitting around a campfire or if we were like at a little old school diner with a cup of coffee in hand, and we'd have the whole room pulling up chairs sitting at the table.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I did that Wounded Warrior hunt in New Mexico this week, and I was with Sergeant Major Dave List. He was the one that pulled Saddam Hussein out of the hole.
Ooh.
And, man, he had some stories, and those warriors had some stories that we hunted with this week. But it's a good combination to sit around with God-fearing, God-loving Americans, and you talk about the things we love in life, the elk calling, the coyote calling, and that's really been what my life's revolved around for the last 25, 30 years.
Man, ain't that the truth? I really love hearing that. You can't outgive good. I always talk about that on this podcast. And to see that you take the gifts in which you've been given and you share it with the world is really one of the greatest things we can do in humanity. So love that. Al, I'm a beginner elk caller. I got my diaphragms. I got, the elk calling seems easy, mew, mew, and now the R. But at the same time, I feel like there's so much, not many people know the language or even know really what they're doing when they're making sounds.
Right. So let's just start at the beginning.
Let's do it.
Let's take everybody down. This is for the Soulful podcast guys that really want to learn. Elk are one of the most vocal animals. From the time they're born, that first 2 weeks, they don't get to talk much, right? They're just laying there waiting for mom to come back. They nurse. They lay back down. They're virtually scent-free, praying that a predator doesn't come along and eat them. And then once that 2-week period's over, that 10 days, those calf elk team up with mom, and almost on an hourly basis, they start communicating with each other. So the fundamental talk for elk is that cow-calf diaphragm, or that cow-calf dialogue that you can do. And I've got 2 examples here. I don't know if will the video ever go out to anybody?
No.
Or is it all going to be just audio?
Yeah, this is just audio for us.
Audio going out to the podcast. But what I'm showing in the screen to you is an open reed and a diaphragm. And so the best way to call elk is with a diaphragm, but there are some people that just can't do it. But what's awesome is they make these open reed calls, and we've got these calls that are the 4K9 and the 4K9 pup, which are great. You know, you can make that jackrabbit. You can call, you know, and then you can howl on them. But God made these calls for one reason, and that's to call big bull elk. You can do that cow-calf dialogue. And that's with an open reed. And then when I do a diaphragm, all you need to do is sound like a cow and a calf. Every bull, I don't care whether he's 426 inches, which is the biggest bull I've ever called in.
Wow.
Was 426 and change. And I called him in with this. Every elk had a mama. Every mama talked to that elk every hour of every day while they were that first 6 months of life. Every elk will respond to that cow-calf dialogue. You don't have to be an expert in any language. You don't have to know exactly what to say, when to say. That's the number one question I get. Every seminar I do across the nation. And I can point to every one of these bulls that you can see in the screen, but every one of them was a calf. And if you will just do the cow-calf stuff, and then as you get better at the cow-calf dialogue, you can add the estrus, and that is a cow elk in heat. Only 1% of the cows come into heat in August. September 7th to September 15th, about 10%, 8 to 10% of the cow elk will come into estrus. By the 15th of September, 30 to 40% of those cows will come into heat in that 1 week. And that's why the bugling, that's when the bulls are really fighting. It's just that September 15th. And I've kind of been wondering if the last 5 years, it's not kind of getting later every year. I don't know whether it's the change of seasons, it's warmer. I don't know. And then I've noticed in some places it's earlier. The end of August seems to be really hot for a while calling. I called a 426 and change bull in September 3rd. I like to call big bulls before they set in with the cows. If you really want to shoot a big bull with a bow and arrow, rifle hunting elk's too easy, in my opinion. You can just shoot them all day long, especially with the new 6.5 PRCs, the 7 mags, with the 1,000-yard turrets. It just doesn't seem to be very challenging to me. Then you're just, range finding, doing the wind dope. That's a whole nother, that precision rifle shooting is a whole nother deal that I would love to get into, but I got too many things pulling at I got too many coyotes to kill to commit too much time to a precision rifle shoot. But if you will learn to do that simple cow-calf dialogue, and what's crazy to me now, Johnny, is kids can get on YouTube. You can get on YouTube and look up the RMEF World Elk Calling Championships, and you can watch my 3 rounds. I won my first round, got to the final 8, lost, and then it's double elimination, and I lost the next 2 rounds. I honestly think I won my 3rd round. If you listen back to it and you really just close your eyes and you didn't know who was calling, I really think I won my 3rd round. I was a toss-up on my 2nd round. I'm really proud of my wife. There was 4 lady callers, and she ended up 4th. But her first round, she went against Corey Jacobson's daughter, and I really think she beat her. And then she went on to win the whole thing. So, calling to judges is hard. Calling to elk is easy. All you got to do is do that cow. Every calf gets lost. Every calf's looking for mama. When the bulls around that 8th, I've killed 16. Well, I personally have killed 9 bulls on the 8th of September. September 8th is my day. I just think every bull on the planet will die on September 8th because it's been such a great day for me. September 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, those big bulls aren't in with the cows yet. But when they hear a calf elk doing this, looking for mama, and then they hear a cow answer. I'm just telling you. And then you add a little bit of cow in estrus, which I do that buzzing. Arr. I can do it. Now, if I just do it clean, but when I buzz it, sounds like a cow in heat. And then if that doesn't quite trip that bull's trigger up, be a small bull, do a spike. I call it a spike bugle, spike chuckle, 4-point bugle, 4-point chuckle. Be a small bull with a cow in heat. They have a pecking order. Those big bulls will not let the young bulls do the breeding. So if you just happen to think there's a bull around, those bulls won't bugle at you. That time of year, they're not interested yet. They want to wait till the bulk of those cows are in estrus. They step in, do all the breeding, get it all done within about a week, 10-day period, and they're out. But if you can sound like that young bull, do a little bull bugle, a little bull chuckle, and then do that estrus call, man, literally, Johnny, I don't know if you'll believe me. I don't know if the people listening will believe me. I've had my knife in 776 elk.
Wow.
From all the clients I've taken and stuff. There's only a couple guys that can even approach that, and they all guided for me at Three Forks Ranch. We would take 100 to 130 people a year at Three Forks Ranch, and then we would take the CWMU, the people that would draw the licenses to hunt the public tags on our place, because we were a ranching for wildlife program. It's CWMU here in Utah. It's ranching for wildlife in Colorado. We would fully guide all the public hunters, and there would be anywhere from 60 to 80 of those a year. Now they're taking over 100 to kill those cows. And so when you guide that many people, you're guiding over 200 hunters a year. Some of those guides are getting up to 50, 60 elk a year.
Wow.
And that ticks up over a 10-year period. You're looking at 500, 600 elk. And that's what we did in a commercial operation. I got over 730 to some elk while I was at Three Forks, and I just keep shooting. I've been killing elk every year. Last year I killed 3 elk, 2 with a bow and 1 with a rifle in Wyoming. And 2 of them were cows. 1 was a spike. I can only kill spikes or cows here in Utah unless I draw the big bull tag. But I've killed 28 bulls with a bow now, and I'm just getting warmed up. I'm just in my prime, 55 years old. So.
Let's go. Okay, so I gotta ask a question and take it back here. So I'm painting a picture for myself. I have my elk location picked out. I know it's the Elk Woods. Obviously, you gotta find your own fresh sign and go about that. Do you like to, if you don't know where the elk are you going through and just cow calling as you're taking a hike, or are you letting out a small bugle, or what type of process are you doing to just kind of pick up on something?
So there's lots of ways to kill elk. You can set up a ground blind on a water hole. You can set up a tree stand on a pass or a trail. And some guys choose to do that because they really feel insecure about their calling. I don't care to do that. I mean, I will if I have to, if it's really hot and dry and they're just not responding. I will get in a ground blind on a water hole, but I don't like to do that. The number one way I find elk in a canyon is if I've hiked in there, I'm pretty sure there's elk there. I'm seeing some sign. You know, you're seeing the tracks. You're seeing the wallows are blown out, a little muddy. You know there's elk in the area. The first thing I do, and it doesn't matter whether it's August, I killed a 6x4 bull in Utah, August 15th. That sucker bugled 28 times coming to me August 15th. And I got a witness. My buddy Barry was there. First thing I did to that bull was I grabbed an open reed call, and I call it my locating cow call. And I go, have you ever heard a cow elk do that?
No, never.
No, ever. I don't always get bulls to bugle at it, but if they even thinking about bugling, now I want you to listen to that again. This is Soulful Hunter Podcast. Deep secret stuff here, Johnny Mac. My guides will tell you I do it. I'll do it September 15th. I'll do it November 1st, October 15th. I've called elk, I've called elk every month of the year. I have called elk to within 50 yards of me. It doesn't matter what month. They're so vocal. And then if you really want to call elk late season, January, February, March, all you got to do is get on our YouTube and look at Colorado, where in February I called 300 elk 12 yards from my partner, Garvin Young, in February playing Elk Calf Distress. I don't know why this locating cow call works so well. J.R. Keller, a buddy of mine, kind of turned me on to it back in the hunter specialties days. He used to do this big, long cow call. I can't take credit for it. Abe Moline kind of did something like this. I call it my locating cow call. And I hope you can hear how loud and how sharp those notes are. And then it doesn't matter what else I do. That's it. 2 or 3, confirmation, cow calf. Every elk loves it. Every elk knows it. All you just did was tell everybody around you. And the early season, from August 15th to about September 8th, 7th, 8th, I will stay there 45 minutes and not say hardly anything else. Those elk can pinpoint where that exact sound came from. And if you've got the wind right, it's a rising thermal, and you know the elk are below you, stay put on that trail, by that wallow, everything else. And those bulls will come to see who were you and what you were doing. And if you're an archer and you do it right, you might call and then move down about 20 yards down that hill, get that thermal a little more, and those bulls will come sneaking up past you. I didn't get this way eating salad, Johnny Mac. I got this way eating elk.
Yeah, buddy.
So that's my number one. If you want to know if an elk's in there. Now, obviously, I've said this in my seminars for the years. Elk hunting's like a bar scene. Have you ever seen the guys in the $200 silk shirts come in? They're there to impress the girls, right? The $200 silk shirt. I see this guy in a wife beater that still has the blood stains from last weekend when he went in and beat up the guy in the $200 silk shirt, right? And then you got the guy in the corner that's over there sipping his beer. He wants to watch the fight. He doesn't want to be part of it, but he wants to watch it. Well, elk are the same. You got the debonair, suave elk that love the cow calling. You got the bulls that are there to fight. They want to hear other bulls. They want to mix it up with the antlers. And then you've got the guys on the edge that just want to watch. So why not call to all of them? And then here it is. You're getting some more inside info. Forget the bulls. We all want the horns, right?
Yeah.
But if you can call that 20-year-old cow in, if you can convince that 20-year-old cow that has listened to every other Tom, Dick, and Harry blow a Primos, Blue Reed piece of crap elk call, I shouldn't say that, but everybody, that's the elk call that most people can blow, right?
Yep.
But those guys have to stay 80 to 100 yards away from their guys they're calling for, because if the elk gets very close, they know that's not an elk. If you can convince that old cow, call the cows. That's the last 20 years of guiding. I've taught all my guides. They'll all tell you that if you can call those old cows in, and you call those old cows by mimicking an old cow, being that herd monarch of the cow, that matriarch of the herd, that herd matriarch. The bulls think they're in charge, but that old matriarch cow is in charge. And if I can see elk react to my calling, I can get them all. I like to get about 200-300 yards. Sometimes it's 150. I've learned through the years, if you sneak up to 40-50 yards of an elk and then just start calling, they'll pick their head up, look at you, and they'll probably head the other way. You scared them. They didn't know you were there. And I like to introduce myself. I call it introducing myself to a herd at 150, 250, 350, 400 yards. I like to just start that. That's it. I'm done. Walk a little closer. Let those elk know you're there. If they're feeding and you've seen it. Elk will be feeding. You call and they snap their heads up. They're looking at you. They're freaking out. Man, just give them that. And then stop. Just sound like a herd that's feeding just like them and moving. And just cows and calves are keeping touch of each other. Maybe at a, and I watch those elk. If they get really nervous, I quit calling. I give them another 20, 30 minutes. Then I reintroduce myself. If they go right back to feeding, I start calling more. I start moving in and I start making my plans. I get the wind right. I want to know which bulls I'm looking at. And like I said, I'm not worried about the bulls. The bulls are going to come. Those guys sitting on the fence that didn't want to fight, didn't want to, be the debonair bulls, they're going to come. Everybody wants to see the cow. And then they hear a cowing heat. And it doesn't matter whether it's August 15th, September 15th, October 15th. It doesn't matter. Somebody, they did a study in Oregon. They put 30 cows behind a fence. And the first year they turned out 5 or 6 spikes. And they did a study. 79% of the cows got pregnant, but it took them clear in October. The next year they added 3.5-year-old bulls. The next year, 4.5-year-old bulls. The next year, 5.5-year-old bulls. What they found out is the older bulls breed those cows in a much shorter time period. So that's why a lot of game agencies are managing for older, mature bulls, because it will condense the rut into a smaller time frame. In Colorado, you have elk rutting from August to frickin' November 15th because there isn't a lot of mature bulls across the majority of those units. And so that rut gets spread out because the younger bulls just don't do as good a job of covering those cows during that first estrus cycle. So you have cows being bred in the second, the third, and the fourth estrus cycle. A cow will come in every 28 days. And, dude, use that to your advantage. But everybody overthinks elk calling. And then you've seen it. You've been with your buddies and you're all sitting there calling and somebody goes, and everybody snorts and laughs. And then the guy pulls the diaphragm out of his mouth because he's embarrassed. Dude, you want to learn how to do this. You want to teach your children. You want to teach your wives. The coolest thing I do now is get my wife calling and I can go trying to kill. And she's up there loving calling. And she just took 4th in the World Elk Calling Championship, so she's not bad.
That's incredible.
And teach your wives, teach your children, teach your buddies. You, Johnny, let's teach 3 or 4 of your buddies. You'll start killing more elk than you've ever killed.
Done.
Because you can,
So just to add on to
what you all start calling and I'll start killing.
Yes. So just to add on to what you were saying, one of my first times coyote hunting, and I had my Fox Pro, and it was probably, I think, the month of June. And I had fawn in distress playing, just ripping, and I called in a monster velvet buck. Wanted to come check it out, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what you're talking about. Is everyone knows that baby sound, that mom sound, and that, I don't know whether it's a protective instinct that kicks in or just like curiosity, but I had this giant...
That big buck wants to see it. I think sometimes I sound just like their mom or just like their sister or just like an elk that they know. That baby fawn, probably that big buck, wanted to see if it was his mom or if it was, maybe, I don't know what calls them in, but we've called big bucks all the way in December, January. We'll be down on the Arizona Strip calling coyotes, and these big 30-inch, 240-inch mule deer come running into the call while we're trying to call coyotes. And that calf elk distress, wolves come to it, grizzly bears come to it, and elk come to it. They come to protect their, they'll come. They want to see what's going on, and they're really curious. When I'm turkey hunting in the spring, I'll be calling and I'll switch over to that. And hey, what's really awesome is now we can use electronic game calls to call elk in Oregon, Wyoming. I think it's okay in Utah now. There's several Western states that are allowing electronic calls for big game. So I have literally sat down in a studio in 2 sessions, and you can take Al Morris with my diaphragm elk calling anywhere you go with these states that it's legal to use the electronics on the Fox Pro. And it's only available on the Fox Pro.
I love that.
Don't buy that cheap foreign stuff. Make sure you get a Fox Pro so you can put AM, bugles, chuckles, everything I can do on a diaphragm. You can take me with you hunting. That's electronically.
So awesome. I was in the Grand Canyon probably 3 weeks ago, and I was cruising the canyon rim trail with my wife and kids, and all of a sudden I saw this 5x5 bull elk right off the road and a spike with it, really long one. And I always keep diaphragms in my little center cubby on my truck, and I pull over and I was like, I gotta get my camera. So I was like, how do I get him to stop? I got to get my diaphragm and just start cow calling at him. And, those heads just whip around, but they didn't. Obviously, you're in a national park, so they're not threatened. However, they started to wander off, but I didn't get them. They didn't just like take off. I was able to get up close, get within bow range. Now, let me just say this, because all those national park people like, oh, you're not. I was practicing my hunting practice in that, but with the camera.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, if I can do this now.
We weren't harassing the animals, we were just sneaking.
Exactly. I just wanted to get close and see if it was real.
Well, and we don't want to be those people in Yellowstone that go to pet the bison and end up 30 feet in a tree. But I don't see anything wrong with it. It's your ground. It's your national ground, and the Park Service can piss off. You can go do anything you want there, Johnny.
I love it, Al. I
think it's time for the American people
to take a stand, huh?
Absolutely. It's time to tell our government they work for us, not the other way around. That they're only there at our behest. And as far as I know, the consumer's always right, and we're the consumers, and they're not right. They work for us, and we got to remind them that.
You are a very well-spoken and outspoken human being, and I find it so encouraging because, my father, and I don't really talk about him very much on this podcast, but he always told me that inspired people inspire people. And I believe that people who are courageous encourage others, and encourage means to fill with courage. So yeah, it takes one person to be like, okay, I'm putting my foot down, or I'm taking a stand, or whatever you want to call it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he did it. I can do it, And
yeah. No, I'm on a 30-day suspension from Farcebrook right now.
What a joke.
Because and you want to know what my 30-day suspension's about? Is that I said we ought to take some of these politicians and hang them. And then like they did in the old days, and they'll remind them who they work for. They gave me a 30-day suspension. So don't call me on Farcebrook for a while, because I'm off. It's my birthday next weekend, and I won't be able to say thanks for all the birthday wishes and stuff, because I won't be able to post. But I think it's a joke how they're trying to limit us on all this. And I want to inspire the person in Pennsylvania to come west. There is thousands, hundreds and thousands, millions of public acres they own. They're red-blooded Americans that pay their taxes. They should come enjoy their Bureau of Land Management, their Forest Service land. And we need to remind those politicians in Washington that they don't own us. We own them. And we've got to remind them of that. The money, we can go into a dissertation and take this podcast where we don't need to, but we need to remind them who they work for and why they got the jobs. And one way or the other, we're going to have to do that, Johnny Mac.
I agree 100%. I actually had 2 of my Twitter accounts deleted from Twitter. They were like, nope, you can't have one anymore.
I know. If it's about hunting and inspiration and a platform that you could possibly plan anything on or rally or do anything like that, they wanted rid of it. They're afraid of us. They're afraid. And that's, when I see this racial tension that they try to build, the George Floyd incident and all the BLM stuff, they want us all thinking about racial tension versus the tension we should have against a group of 130 people that rule our existence like a dictatorship. And if we all, it doesn't matter the color of our skin, if we all put our hands together and our heads together, those people, their heads will roll. And we got to remember that as Americans.
Absolutely. I love and hate how Joe Biden tried to quote Thomas Jefferson, the whole, every now and then the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of tyrants and patriots alike. But he tried to quote that and he's just like blah 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 blah. He had no idea exactly.
Yeah, no, he's the incoherence, it's a joke. And that's the other thing is everybody who really paid attention to this election knows they cheated, knows there was anomalies, knows that the voting machines were hacked, and knows that there was way more ballots coming in. when that trucker from went up to New York and brings those ballots down to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania from New York, and they start counting them in the Pennsylvania election, don't tell me that there wasn't, and that guy's willing to sign an affidavit that he could go to jail, but yet the NBC Nightly News tells us there's no proof of any fraud whatsoever.
Yeah.
Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining.
I love that quote. That's one of my favorites. Okay, I got a question in regards to elk calling, and so as much as we could do this real life politics talk,
this is much funner, Johnny.
I don't know. I kind of enjoy that other talk also, but we'll save that for another episode. Okay, so late season. So last year I had an elk tag that was good for a cow elk only from November 25th to December 15th. I had the fortunate opportunity to fill that tag, but it wasn't because of calling. I brought a diaphragm with me. It was more, finding a herd and making a move. In late season, can you call in cow elk or even the bulls late season, and does anything change?
Okay, everything's changed. The big bulls will be off by themselves. They're no longer with the herd. The only bulls with the herd will be those spikes, 3 points, 4 points, maybe a 5 point here and there, maybe a small 6. Your 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old bulls, they'll be off on their own. They use so much energy and got so depleted that they're off in the cliffs and they're in that backcountry that they don't want to get messed with. But your big herds, your cows and calves and those small bulls will still be banded together, and they will get big. They can be 150, 250, 350 animals at Three Forks Ranch. We hunted them through November, and I could call elk all the way through November, just being that lost calf, that calf in distress. I got to where I think I would listen to those elk, and I could tell they were scratching through the snow, and they didn't think there was a lot of feed there. And I would do some content cow calling, cow calf, where their cow calf talk was urgent and kind of, I don't know, it was different. And I would sound calmer, and I'd get that whole herd to pick up and thinking I had better feed. I really think that's what I was saying, is my feed's better than your feed, or that we're more content, or that, and then there's times I had to be urgent and desperate and, distressed. And then I would get that herd to come look at us. And it's really awesome when you can call them in November, December, January, February, during these late cow seasons. The January, February calling, November, December, I think you can do it with content, or, just saying my grass is greener, or working, I think it's a herd. It's more of a herd unity thing in November and December. January and February, I'm primarily using Elk Calf Distress. I'm an elk calf in distress, and I need your help. And that's what gets those big herds to come, take a look at you. And I've done it with so much success. Literally hundreds and hundreds of guys have filled their tags because I called. And let's face it, in the late season, you're going to have to get close enough to shoot them with a rifle. And when you do get close enough and the herd is moving, a few well-placed, boom, that elk will stop, broadside, look at you. You get a standing broadside shot at 300 yards versus a walking or a moving 300, 400-yard shot. And everybody knows that if that elk's standing still, you're going to have more potential to make a one-shot better kill than if the elk's moving. So that's why everyone should learn to call to get that standing late season broadside shot. And I count those elk. That's in my 776 elk that I put a knife in. I count the cows and the calves that I've stopped at 200, 300, 400 yards and gave a guy a standing broadside shot, because it made the difference of success for him. And if you shoot at a moving elk at 400 yards and you put it on its front shoulder, chances are you're going to hit that thing in the ass. They're going to move that far. By the time that bullet gets there, you're going to make a poor shot. And, the other thing I profess is the bigger the caliber, the better. The 6.5 PRC, the 7 mag, the number one elk cartridge for me through the years has been a 338 Win Mag. I try to stay away from the 06s and the 270s, although There are plenty of gun for an elk. You cannot see when it hits the elk. The elk don't react to an .06 or a 270 or 243 or a 308. I've killed hundreds of elk with those calibers, but I like the 300 Win Mag, the 7 Mag, the 6.5 PRC. But my number one, tip them on their chin, first shot is a 338 Win Mag. I realize a 110-pound guy probably doesn't want to shoot a 338 Mag, but that's why God invented suppression. Get you an OSS suppressor on the front of that gun, and it'll tame her down.
I love it. I specifically got into archery to hunt elk. So every year I'm rifle deer, archery elk. So the concept of me shooting an elk with a rifle, it seems foreign and also kind of seems easy now based off of after you've been archery hunting them.
Absolutely.
But
a muzzleloader is even, that there's muzzleloaders now shooting 300 yards pretty regular. That just isn't much of a challenge. It's like Jim Shockey said, bow hunting was a little hard and rifle hunting was too easy. That's why Shockey settled on the muzzleloader, and he was the first one to do that muzzleloader North American slam. And now you see him doing more bow hunting. True hunters, you're so intimate. That's the thing about bow hunting, and I know that's why you chose bow hunting, Johnny, is when you go bow hunting elk, it's an intimate experience. And that's what I want to stress to your listeners, is if you truly want to get intimate with elk, learn to use a diaphragm, learn to call, and go get intimate with them. And listen. And when Wayne Carlton answered that phone in 1983 and gave me that instruction, the last thing he said to me before he hung up, he said, "Look, I got the mules loaded. I'm going up there today. Go find some elk today, young man, and mimic those elk. Learn to talk with the elk."
Man.
It was the best advice he ever gave me. I went up there 2 days later on the 15th of September, 1983. I called in my first bull elk with my father. October 1st came around. My dad shot his first elk with a rifle in Utah, in an open area in Utah. All my friends shot elk on that hunt because I called them in elk, and changed my life. In 1990, a buddy of mine called me, said, I need a guide out here. I'm guiding in Colorado. And can you come out? And I went to work, and they said, "Yeah, we're slow. Go ahead and take a week off." So I went out guiding. The outfitter offered me a month. Said, "I need you for 30 days next year." And I was grinding diamonds at the time. And when I went to my boss, I said, "I need 30 days this year." And he said, "Get all these drills done, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't go." So I did all my work, got it done, and went and guided for 4 straight weeks. And I can't remember. I put my knife in 25 elk in 4 weeks, something like that.
Incredible.
It was the most amazing experience of my life. And I was taking guys that never thought they would shoot an elk with a bow, calling elk to 10, 12, 14, 15 yards, 25 yards. And they were putting arrows through their hearts and changed me.
Oh,
it was really good.
Do you enjoy shooting and calling elk more or coyotes?
Oh, I'm elk. I've always been elk. My first animal, when I went to Utah State at University, they told us to choose 2 animals to study. And I chose elk first. And it was one of my teachers said, "Everybody does elk. Why don't you said coyotes. I want to learn more about a coyote." So I spent my whole 3.5 years at Utah State University studying coyotes. But my passion's always been elk. The first time I blew an elk diaphragm in the on a hunt, we went on a buddy's hunt in the Book Cliffs. It was one of the first times I blew a diaphragm after that first experience. 2 days after I got it, it was like 2 weeks later. The first time in the Book Cliffs, I called 9 coyotes up, 2 adults and 7 pups. And I was just, making a bunch of noise with a diaphragm. I was just blowing it, walking up this sagebrush flat, and all of a sudden 9 coyotes surrounded me. They were hunting, and man, that changed me forever. That's when I went, "Oh, coyotes are cool." And then that's when I started doing and then you can take some of the best howlers on the planet are just a double, triple reed elk call. And you can do all the and that's hands-free. You can have your gun up, do all the shooting you want.
Man, that sounds like my Fox Pro.
Oh yeah, no. In '97, when me and Garv entered that first world championship, we had a Johnny Stewart tape player. He had a Cersei neck call, and I had a diaphragm in my mouth. And we went out and killed 13 coyotes. The closest team to us had 7. And that's when I found out that I can kill a lot of coyotes with one of these in my mouth. And I kind of fell into coyotes, where the elk were my passion and my love.
It's one of those things where it's like a diaphragm, as simple as it is so intimidating for people. And
so let's talk about it. So you've got that latex that sticks out, and people need to understand when your tongue presses. I wish we had the video, because I can show people it presses. So stick your tongue out, Johnny, and we're going to visualize this for everybody. Now reach up with your little finger and touch where that latex touches. When you call, stick your tongue out and touch that spot right there. That's where your tongue's touching. So what are you, about an inch back from the tip of your tongue?
Yeah.
And when you slide that diaphragm in your mouth, press that. So that's how I teach people to blow a diaphragm, is they stick their tongue out. I touch a spot where you touched your tongue, about an inch from the end of your tongue. Press that against the latex and blow. Try to make sound. Very good. Now go really high. Do it. You do it. Mimic me. Now do the yaw. Do it with me.
All the listeners are going to be like, what the heck is going on here? What are we listening?
No, we're not worried about them. We're worried about you right now. And they're learning. Go. Go. Go.
Okay, so
that's the chuckle. That's how you learn the chuckle.
Wait, what are you doing to like that sound?
I'm sucking. I'm just. And then you had a tune.
You are so awesome.
But that's how you do it.
All right.
Excellent. You just need practice now. That's all you need, is more repetition, right?
Okay.
So now you're going through. You know the cow calls. And remember, if you get lost, if you got a listener out there that goes, man, I can't make noise all the time, stick your tongue out, press your finger on that spot that's rubbing that latex, and put it back in. And then, like I told you, you want to do a full blow. There you go. Now do the R. Okay, now go.
Is that getting
awesome? That is awesome. That's a big bull, right?
Okay.
That sounds like a big bull. And some of these tags across the West are in big bull areas. So if you want to mess with a big bull, you got to sound like a big bull. Now, if you're just hunting little 4 and 5 points, be that small. No, I'm doing it.
You're letting your lower jaw be really loose. Not being so tight. Let your jaw play the game.
Yeah, no, let it flow.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so you cow-calf call, do small bull stuff, do big bull stuff. And guess what? You're talking every elk. And when you be a bigger bull, challenge, it's like if I was walking down the street with my wife and some guy across the street goes, and I go, you looking at my wife? What am I going to do? I'm probably going to walk across that street to kick your butt. And that's all you're doing with this. You want to get the same thing. Now, 34 years of elk calling wrapped up into this bugle tube. And I'm showing it here for you, but everybody can listen to it. What makes my bugle tube better? Everybody's into the wiffle ball bat designs. Every bugle tube on the market besides mine, you can go to gofoxpro.com and look up the big bully tube at Fox Pro. What makes mine different is that mine's about the same diameter as an elk's esophagus. It's corrugated. If I could take this neoprene sleeve off, you would see it's corrugated just like an elk's esophagus. But what makes my tube different is I have a baffle in here. So when it's open, it's loud, but when I close it off, can you hear that shut all the way off?
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping you can hear the volume difference in your headset, and maybe your listeners can. That baffle opening and closing, I don't know what it is, but when I close it, if I'm bugling or cow calling at a bull and I close it off, they can still hear it, but I closed it off. It's like you disrespected those big bulls. They're walking right to me. This tube ought to be illegal. It's so good, and it's so good at getting bulls to come right to you. So 34 years of elk calling, me and Steve Dillon sat down. I designed this tube, and it's amazing. The 4K9, the 4K9 pup, the open reeds, and a diaphragm. There isn't an elk walking that I can't call in. And if you can't reproduce my sounds, you can go on to gofoxpro.com and listen to my calling. You can listen yourself right now. Go on there and listen to my elk sounds on Fox Pro. And you can buy those sounds and upload them to your Fox Pro. But you can listen to how I call elk.
You are incredible, Al.
It's just, it's another, that's what I was telling you is I can't believe these kids can listen to YouTube, go on YouTube, listen to us call, and then they can come compete at the world elk calling level and be studs because they listened to us on YouTube and mimicked what we did on YouTube.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, how many people entered the world championships this year that you've never seen before?
There was I want to say 17 or 21 pros, and the first cut we cut to 8, and there was a preliminary round of 4, and they eliminated. It was single elimination the first 2 rounds, and then there was a round of 8 was double elimination. So I'm pretty sure there was 18 or 20 callers this year for the pro division, and there was that many or more in the adult men's division. So,
okay,
it was down. It was way down this year because of COVID, I think.
Now, I got a question for you. I am blowing. I hate saying that. I'm not going to say that. I use Phelps diaphragms, Phelps amp.
Right. They're awesome.
Fits my mouth really well. Are you
right,
like brand loyal because you just have always been like a Wayne Carlton fan or a Fox Pro call, or do you go based off of what diaphragm fits your mouth?
These are Fox Pro calls I've been, and I have a big mouth, so there isn't a diaphragm that I've ever put in my mouth that didn't fit my mouth. Some people have a narrow palate. I think you have a narrow palate, and they need that plate. That's what does Phelps call it, an amp, and Primo's called it a palate plate, and Hunter Specialties calls it a tone trough. Those don't help me at all. Honestly, we sell a herd pack with a single, a double, a triple, and then we've got a double black called a cow.
The loose cow.
Call. And those are the 4 diaphragms that Fox Pro makes. And I made them. They're prophylactic type latex. They don't wear out. Some latexes absorb moisture and they just get, they'll get flimsy and flappy on you. These won't. But I got to tell you, my buddy, and I just mentioned his name because he's awesome. Mark Carlton made these for me. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He put my name on them and put the Fox Pro logo on them for me. But Native by Carlton. I've always been loyal to Wayne Carlton because he taught me back in 1983, the year before you were born. Mark Carlton's making the best diaphragms on the planet right now. I would like to say that the Fox Pro diaphragms are equal to any other diaphragm out there right now. And you just can't go wrong. And you do need to buy a variety to see which ones fit your mouth best. There's several companies out doing it. You can get ours online, gofoxpro.com, and you can listen. You can go preview sounds before you buy sounds, and you can listen to some of my elk sounds on that Fox Pro website. And it'll help your elk calling. You can go on to RMEF's YouTube and see the 2021 World Elk Calling Championships. You can listen to me call for 3 rounds, my contest calling scenarios and stuff. You can, if you really want to get nostalgic, you can go look up the Hunter Specialties Primetime Bull series. I was on 6 or 7 of those videos, calling elk in on those videos. And I would like to bring some of those back. I'd like to have somebody that could put them up on YouTube, some of that old elk calling footage from back in the day when I was guiding full time. And I've kept a journal. The only reason I know I've had my knife in 776 elk because I've kept a journal. I kept wind, how much wind there was, what the moon phase was, what the temperatures, barometric pressures. I'm going to write a hell of a book someday, Johnny, but I still go out and get my feelings hurt. I can still go call at elk and watch them run away. And it doesn't hurt my feelings anymore. I can go out and call 5 guys in on public land in a day. And they're like, man, I really thought there was an elk here. And I go, me too. and you know, it's just, don't get discouraged. I want your podcast listeners to know that they're going to make funny noises. They're going to squeak. They're not going to be perfect, but you don't have to be perfect to call elk. And after this year's 2021 World Elk Calling Championships, it proved to us you don't have to be perfect to win the contest either, but in front of judges. But there was definitely some eyebrow-raising wins and losses in this World Elk Calling Championship. We can make it better, and we're trying to.
Perfect. I love that. 2 questions for you. If you're in a mid bugle and you can't hold your tone or your note and you kind of like, you know, or it doesn't sound right, does that need to be fixed, or is that still okay to go out there and start calling? And then
it's still okay. And here's what I want your listeners and you to understand from now on, every time you elk call, I don't care if you do a just always go
at the end of it.
Let the last sound that elk heard be something pretty and perfect. You know, it doesn't matter how awful something was. If you'll just go, just finish with that. That's all that elk goes, oh, it was just an elk. You know, because they make mistakes. They screw up. I'll never forget, a guy had a tag in New Mexico, and I was guiding in Colorado, and I said, I'm done. I got all my clients done in 2 days. I jumped in my truck. I ran down. He's like, dude, I found this bull, but if you call to him, he's going to leave. I'm like, I'm Al Morris, dude. He hasn't heard Al Morris. He doesn't know me, right? So, Johnny, we walk in on this bull, right? 150 yards, 200 yards, 300 yards, whatever he was. I think he was about 300 yards. And I pick up my open reed, and I go, he's going to, dude, get knocked. This is a done deal. He's got 5 or 6 cows. He doesn't even know. He doesn't know what's about to hit him. I go, that bull picked his head up. Those 5 cows picked their head up, and they ran 3.5, 4 miles, the best I can tell. Never slowed down. They knew I was the hunter. They ran away, and this guy had been on this bull for like 6 days. And he's like, I told you he wasn't going to call. And I said, dude, he just didn't want to call. We walked over the ridge. I called in about a 360 6x6. He shoots him at 12 yards. I said, you didn't want that first bull anyway. Well, the first bull was about a 380. So he did want that 380, but he didn't pass the 360 that I called in 30 minutes later. So
that's hilarious.
You just don't know. You can make bad sounds. Elk will be call shy on public land. You need to be the first one in. You need to stay all day, and you need to hunt hard. On private land, you hunt early and you hunt late because you want to keep your elk there. There's 2 different strategies. to hunting private land versus public. I've done it all. I've killed as many elk on public land. Well, not as many on public, but I've done both.
Yeah.
My buddy Garvin drew a public land bull tag a 3 years ago here in Utah. We killed a 357 bull on public land, 36 yards with his bow. That was one of the most awesome call-ins. Garvin Young made an awesome shot, and I'll show you that video sometime when we're sitting together.
That'd be awesome.
Of the recovery. It was really cool. And I want people to know they don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a world champion. Just make good quality cow-calf talk, make some good bugles, and there isn't an elk walking this planet that you won't be able to call in.
I love it. Last thing that I just want to mention for all the listeners who didn't get to see you do what you just did. You actually switched to 2 different calls. And on my first elk that I shot, switching between 2 different diaphragms made it seem like there was more elk there, and all of a sudden just settled it down or heated it up. So find a diaphragm you like, but then also find another one that you can blow so that you can play that herd.
That sounds a little different. You are a herd. You're trying to promote you are another herd of elk that wants to merge. Those elk all through the month of September, they just keep growing in numbers. Every herd gets bigger. And by November, December, you've got these big herds. So they are joining, and there's dominant cows, matriarchs, that they want to be in charge, but here comes another cow in charge. And I've seen them pin their ears back and go to fighting each other. Cows are in as much competition to breed as the bulls. And a lot of people forget that. Everybody concentrates on that bone I see hanging up behind you there, Johnny. Everybody wants the big racks, right?
Yep.
But what people don't realize is the cows are in as much competition to breed as the bulls. And if you will start mastering your cow-calf talk, the bulls will come easy.
Perfect.
That's my...
Big Al, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us for an episode of The Soulful Hunter. I really appreciate it. Listeners, if you have questions, reach out. And I know Al has just been a wonderful help, but he's a wonderful human being. Go check out his content, gofoxpro.com. I think it's Al, Go Fox Pro on YouTube as well.
Yeah, it's Fox Pro Hunting TV on YouTube or Fox Pro Fur Takers, but we've got elk episodes. You can Google Fox Pro Hunting TV elk, and it'll pull up some of our I called a big bull into my boss, Mike, in New Mexico a few years ago. And it's just quality. It's quality content. It's a good time, and it's something for your listeners to go check out.
I love it. Yeah, get that practice. Put your diaphragm in your car, put it in your mouth while you're driving, practice it if you're too afraid to blow in front of other people.
Teach your wife, teach your kid, teach your best friends. You'll kill more elk. You'll have more fun. You'll be out in the outdoors like Johnny Mack and doing it with the Soulful Hunter.
That's right. All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know I have. I thoroughly have enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Al, for being an amazing human being. Guys, good luck this year. We got the kickoff of hunting season here in the state of Washington started on Sunday with black bear, and we're about to head into the woods and go fill a black bear tag. Good luck this coming year. Remember, it is no one's going to save you except yourself, and no one's going to live your life except yourself. So make it what you want. Freedom on, everybody, and as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.